Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to fundamentally shift how you see the world by exploring the invisible forces that govern literally everything around us. Have you ever wondered why some things seem to naturally stabilize, while others just spiral completely out of control? Well, the answer to that lies in system dynamics and control.
It's the ultimate question, isn't it? Why do systems succeed or collapse? To really answer this, we've got to completely shatter the illusion of simple, linear A causes B cause and effect. In the real world, whether we're talking about biology, ecology, the global economy, or massive engineered infrastructures, behavior almost never arises from a simple, straight line. Instead, it emerges from a massive, super tangled web of interactions.
Here's our quick roadmap for the journey today. We'll start with a welcome to systems dynamics, look at the power of feedback loops, dive into systems and their environments, explore regulating complex systems, and wrap up with engineering the future. All right, kicking things off with Section 1. Welcome to System Dynamics, shattering the linear illusion. Let's dive in and establish some vital ground rules.
So, system dynamics is all about recognizing that behavior actually emerges from complex networks of interactions over time. When we talk about these dynamics, we're really looking at the continuous flows of matter, energy, and information. Because these elements are constantly interacting with each other, systems often exhibit behaviors that you simply couldn't predict just by looking at their individual, isolated parts. It's kind of like baking a cake. You absolutely cannot predict how it's going to taste just by staring at a separate pile of flour, eggs, and sugar, right? It's the dynamic interaction that creates the final result.
Now, if system dynamics is the engine of change, then control is the steering wheel. Control is the necessary counterpart here. It provides the regulation required for a system to adapt and actually remain viable. Without these built-in control mechanisms, a system just can't maintain coherence when it's faced with a rapidly changing environment or sudden, unexpected disturbances.
What's truly fascinating is how these 5 emergent dynamic patterns show up universally. Seriously, from the natural metabolic networks firing inside your own body right now, all the way to massive engineered power grids spanning the globe, we see these exact same patterns. We see stabilizing behaviors, maintaining an equilibrium, amplifying behaviors, driving rapid growth, oscillatory behaviors, creating natural rhythms, adaptive behaviors, pivoting to respond to change, and emergent behaviors where entirely new structures just sort of form out of collective interactions. Moving right along to Section 2, the power of feedback loops, the engines of change. Let's take a look at the primary mechanisms driving those emergent patterns.
Feedback. It's arguably the single most fundamental mechanism underlying everything we're talking about today. The crucial point to grasp here is that a feedback loop creates a cyclical flow of matter, energy, and information. Basically, it's what happens when the output of a process circles right back around to become the input, profoundly influencing the very conditions that produced it in the first place. We can basically divide these loops into 2 distinct, incredibly powerful forces. On one side, we've got reinforcing feedback. This amplifies change and pushes systems to extremes, whether that's runaway exponential growth or a very rapid decline. On the flip side, we have balancing feedback. This counteracts change. It acts as the brakes to maintain equilibrium and restore homeostasis.
Let's look closer at reinforcing feedback. This is the stuff responsible for rapid, nonlinear change and sudden, explosive tipping points in a system. When you see a video go massively viral across social media, or watch compound interest swell up a bank account, or witness an unchecked population boom in biology, that is reinforcing feedback in action. An increase in one variable leads to even more increases in that exact same direction.
Balancing feedback, on the other hand, is what allows systems to survive and maintain stability despite constant external curveballs. Think about how your body continually regulates its internal temperature, or how a simple thermostat keeps your living room comfortable. These are balancing loops, constantly pulling the system back to a target condition. They fight off chaos to keep everything running smoothly. It is, without a doubt, a system's ultimate survival tool.
Okay, Section 3. Systems and their environments, zooming out to the grand web. So what exactly happens when these intricate internal loops interact with the much wider world around them? Let's take a look.
This creates a brilliant, bidirectional, co-evolving relationship. Step by step, it goes like this. First, a system has internal structures regulating its own behavior. Second, it exchanges matter, energy, and information with its environment. Third, the environment, in turn, heavily influences the system's dynamics. And finally, the system's ongoing activity actually reshapes those environmental conditions over time. It's a constant, tightly coupled dance.
Even early systems thinkers like Alexander Bogdanov, way back in the 1920s, recognized that boundary interactions are just as critical as the internal structure. We've really got to stop treating systems as these closed-off, isolated entities. Whether it's a digital platform evolving right alongside its users or a huge city interacting with its local ecology, systems and their environments are intimately bound together. They are coupled adaptive systems. This means we can never truly solve a problem in isolation. Fixing the city absolutely means understanding the ecology too.
Which brings us to Section 4, regulating complex systems, natural and engineered control. As we zoom out even further, we need to look at how control scales up in massive, coupled environments.
There's a really fascinating distinction between how control manifests in nature versus human design. Control mechanisms emerge completely organically in living systems like ecological regulation or neurocontrol, honed by millions of years of evolution just to adapt to variation. In contrast, engineered control, like the complex flight systems in a commercial jet or the traffic management grids in our cities, well, those are deliberately, meticulously designed by us to achieve very specific goals.
And today, modern society relies entirely on what we call social, ecological, technical systems. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but think about it. In these massive webs, you have raw physical processes colliding directly with cutting-edge technological capabilities, all being driven by flawed human decision-making and governed by rigid institutional structures. Because of this insane level of complexity, modern engineering recognizes that control often has to be distributed across the entire network, rather than just managed from one centralized vulnerable point. We're living inside these social, ecological, technical systems every single day. Just look at our climate and energy grids, our urban infrastructure, global food and water supplies, and our digital information ecosystems. Addressing large-scale societal challenges in any of these areas requires a really deep understanding of these multi-domain, coupled dynamics. You simply cannot fix a problem in a food system without understanding how the social, technological, and ecological layers interact. When your local power grid fails during a winter storm or your social media feed spirals into a massive echo chamber, you're witnessing these domains colliding firsthand. And finally, Section 5, Engineering the Future and How We Take Control. Let's move to our final section and see how systems engineers apply all of this to build a resilient future. Because engineered systems operate in wildly unpredictable, constantly evolving environments, designers have to think dynamically. And honestly, it's absolutely amazing to consider the sheer scale of what they have to accomplish. Effective system design requires strict attention to feedback structures, the incredibly dynamic interactions between components, predicting exactly how the system will respond to a sudden shock, and most importantly, figuring out how it will adapt and continuously learn over time. This is exactly where model-based systems engineering, or MBSE, comes into play. Think of it like a massive digital sandbox for engineers. By utilizing MBSE and incredibly advanced simulation tools, engineers can map out and simulate these complex feedback loops during the design phase. It lets us explore how a system will interact with its environment across its entire life cycle. This helps us anticipate wild, unintended consequences and actually prevent catastrophic system collapses before the thing is even built. This idea perfectly summarizes why adopting a dynamic, systemic lens is honestly non-negotiable in our interconnected world today. If we only look for simple, linear causes, we're going to be entirely blindsided by the emergent behaviors of these complex networks. We literally have to design for adaptability and resilience. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question to think about. We know that feedback processes rely on detecting system states and transmitting signals back and forth. But to keep these networks coherent over time, how exactly do systems manage the constant, degrading threat of entropy, the universe's natural slide right into chaos? How do information flows actively fight against this disorder to ensure a system's ultimate survival or transformation? I'll leave you to ponder that one as it unlocks a whole new layer of how our universe stays organized. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep looking for those hidden loops all around you.